do its thing. Awesome, we're live. So as mentioned, my name is Adam. Today we're going to be running through the Sports Tracker as our protocol for training today. So basically, this is the first screen that you're going to see when you log into your Sports Tracker portal account. So this is what we refer to as organizations. Now, organizations are pretty much a fancy way of saying the school name or like the campus that you're at, something like that. It's not so much your entire account, it's more so like the breakdown within that. And then each organization can have its own set of meets and students assigned to it. So it works really well for like different campuses and stuff like that. But generally, if you have like a single school campus, you're just going to have the one in there anyway. So usually what you'll do is jump into here, click this little purple button over here to jump into that organization. And this will take you through to the meets section. Now, the meets is basically another word for the carnivals. People also refer to them as the events, but as far as like the sports tracker system is concerned, they're referred to as meets. So if you're reading any of our documentation or talking to our team, that's the wording that you'll be looking for there. On the screen as well is also where you add your students and your team. So on the far left over here, you've got this little navigation bar where you can jump around. So students over here, you probably should have all of these in there already, but if you needed to add additional ones in, you definitely can. So you can do these individually if you wanted to, or you can do it in bulk. So at the very top here, you've got the student menu. You can either create a brand new student at the very top, or you can use an Excel spreadsheet to import them across. If you do an Excel spreadsheet, basically you come through here, you need these following fields here. So you need to know the student's first name, last name, email, date of birth, gender, team, and year group. Now we do have a template in our knowledge base or our tutorial system that has like all these broken down for you. So you don't need to remember this off the top. If you go into the support section, which you can get from the home page, there's a section for importing students. It'll have the template there and they'll give you all the ins and outs for it. Because there is like very particular formatting that you need to actually do with the importing. As an example, the date of birth has to be date, month, year. So year. So 08 13 2024 or whatever it is. So you actually need the first digit to be there. But yeah, as said, the template on the knowledge base, if you do need to break that down a little bit further. So adding students pretty easy. As I said, you've already got a good portion of them in here anyway, so you probably won't need to go down this step.
That's good.
Yeah. Cool. And then you've also got your teams on the left-hand side. So once again, this is kind of just a way of breaking down like your house colors or your house teams. You can add additional ones in there. So if this is changing or if you're adding additional ones in there, you can do so as well. And then you also have your scoring options. And this is basically where you create your various scoring schemes. This is once again, a fancy way of saying first place is worth X points, basically. So you can have as many placement breakdowns as you like. Some people do first all the way through to 10th. Some people just do 1 to 3. Some people do just first place. It really depends on what you guys are doing. But you can basically create a new one at the very top. Give it a name, which we'll call this test scoring. Save it. And then we can go to the little people icon for that scoring system. And then you can basically update the point values. So first place, 10 points, second, 8, third, 6. You can add additional placements in here. You can adjust these points. You have an everyone else point value, so basically a participation point system, and then a broken record. So if any of your students break a particular record at your school, it will give them a bonus points based on that one. Some people don't want to do that, but yeah.
So because we don't have any records so far, if say we do the timing, does everyone get a bonus 10 points then?
I believe that would be the case, yeah. So it
we might
would be hey brand new.
Yeah.
The other options you can add records in there. So the far left you have records over this side, so you can add them in if you already know some off the top of your head. So at the very top you've got your filtering options. We can change by date of birth, by year group. I usually go by year group whenever I'm doing this sort of stuff. You can then change by the classification. Sorry, my English just left me for a moment. Swimming, athletics, cross country, your year groups, and then the genders on the far left. And then basically you just add in a new event over here or the new record by filling in the details. So very straightforward. The only thing with this one is it does need to have a value for each option. So if the record is seconds, milliseconds, you still need to put 0 for the minutes in here as an example.
I don't even know.
I don't know what they're all. Yeah. If this year, does it keep records from this year if we use the stopwatch and then next year we've got records, or?
Yeah, it's a good question. So basically there's two terminologies for the I guess records for the system. So you have the results, which are basically like the ones that happen on the day. So whenever someone puts in a score, that's their result. A record in Sports Tracker is like the high score record. So this will basically always be constant no matter what. Whereas a result, if you remove that student or you remove that event, that result is lost unless it is a high score record. As I said, that one sticks with your account.
So we have to individually put in all of the high scores into the records then?
Well, as they are broken, they'll basically be automatically updated within the system. But if you already had them offline, as said, you can add them in beforehand, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that every time we use it, it'll just update the record.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
If
So
it
anytime
gets
that like a better scores are put in place, it will update it in the system.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's basically all the like main portions from this screen over here. Is any specific questions about any of these that you guys had?
No.
I'll zoom in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So basically, we're going to how to create a new meet at this point. So in the top left, you can click on the meets option up here. Click new, create new at the very top. Basically, you can pick between real, mock, and cancel. The main difference here, real is like an actual event in the system. This will show on like the school zine Sports Tracker side, I guess, where we have like a list of all the upcoming meets that are going on within the system. A mock is kind of where you creating like a test one in your own sense. They operate the exact same in terms of like the settings that you have available and how you put them through. The only difference is, the mock one doesn't tell us that it's running as an actual event, basically.
It's a good practice, isn't it?
Yes, but basically in terms of like what you guys see in your portal, it doesn't change anything. They all like work the exact same. So in terms of like what you guys interact with, it doesn't really matter. The only thing that might change is like if our team like notices there's quite a lot of meets happening on a particular day, and you're like a new client, for example, they might decide to reach out, hey, congratulations on your first meet. But if it's a mock one, then you'd be like, oh, we didn't actually run it yet. So that's like the only thing it might affect. It doesn't really change anything from you guys, really. So we'll do a mock one just for expediency's sake for the most part. So at the very top here we have the name. So you basically give it a name. This is if we go down here, we had 2024 cross country. This is basically what that displays. So we'll just do mock again. So we'll just go once again training meet. Location, once again, kind of optional, just lets people know if they're signing up on the portal where this is being held. So we can put whatever we like in here. It is optional though. The date, we basically put once again whatever date the carnival is being held on. So let's just go the 15th of the 9th, 2024. Now you have the starting at and ending at. This is the time frame for the carnival. Once again, pretty straightforward. The only difference is it is case sensitive or syntax dependent. So if you can see here in the little grayed out has 9 space PM, it needs to be in this sort of a layout. So we actually need to go 9 capital AM and then it's running until 3 space capital PM kind of thing. If you try and put like so let's say 9:00 until 15:00 as like 24-hour time, it'll freak out a little bit. So make sure you try and stick with that naming convention where you can. So the meet type, once again, with space, you can pick what type of carnival you're running. So you guys are running the athletic carnival next to the case. So we'll click that one for now. Age grouping, you pick between birth date or year group. So this is basically how it's going to list the events that's being run by. Most people do year group because like all the year sixes, for example, are in here, but you can do it on birth date, as in like 15-year-olds, 13-year-olds, that kind of stuff. We'll
year group.
We'll jump back to that in a moment, because once we change it to year group, a lot of these options, or some of these options, drop off. So if you're doing birth date, you can pick either to display it as the years or as like unders, so under 13, under 14s, that kind of stuff. We'll do it for year group for now. Scoring method, we have position and standards. Now this is something that I didn't know until kind of recently. Do you guys know the difference between these two, basically? So position is like probably the most common. This is basically first place gets X, second place gets Y. Standards is like if you score over 1 meter and 10 centimeters in high jump, you get this many points. If you score over this, you get that points. Position is the most common. Standards has its own little like niche environment, but position is probably the most common that you run through. And then you can pick the participating teams for your carnival. So if it's only running between 2 of your houses, for example, you can pick the 2 that are participating. Most people will just click all because generally everyone's participating. But it should be all good.
Sorry, Swan, you can't do it.
So then we can go save, and then we can put our meet up here. So you have upcoming meets, which is basically everything that hasn't been run yet, and then past meets, obviously everything that's been finished up. So now that our meet's been created, we can come across to the 4 little squares here to bring up the actual details for that meet. So it starts off with your meet progress page. This is kind of like the home page for your meet over there. So on the left, you have a percentage on like how many of your events have been completed, and you'll have a meet feed over here, which basically tells you like the most recent scores that have been put in place. So you can kind of get a running commentary and running options of what's being changed within your meet there. But in terms of like starting off with creating your meet, you pretty much always jump across to the events option at the very top here. Now there's 2 ways of doing the meet. So the first one is, once again, we can do an import, but I believe the import is only accessible to our staff members on here with the admin password details. So as for like the first meet that you guys usually run, we offer that valet service, which basically means that you can provide us with the details, we import it, and make sure it's all okay. I don't think you guys actually have the access to the importer. In terms of if you guys are going to add it yourself, you'll add them in individually as the events. Now, basically how you do that, top left-hand corner, we have the event menu, create new event up here. As I said, I think some of these you won't actually see, like the import to CSV. I don't think you guys have access to that one. But if you go create new event at the very top, we basically just need to fill in our details on this side. So we basically pick what day we're running the event on. So if you have a multi-day carnival, you can change that. Start time, basically just pick whichever the start time for the event is. If you don't really care what the start time is, if they're all just kind of like they're run as they're called kind of thing, as long as it's like within the starting time of your carnival. So that time we picked at the very beginning. So we started this at 9. So we want to make sure our events are starting at least 9 o'clock. And then basically whatever is relevant to that event. So we'll do this at 9:00. Event type, we can click in here and pick whichever that we like. So it really just depends on what event you're running. Or you have a custom event at the very bottom. So if you can't find what you're after in this list, you can always create your own. The only difference with custom events is they don't really have a way of showing in the records. So there's high score records that we talked about beforehand. Custom event is always custom. It doesn't really have anything it directly links to. So if you did, like say, a custom high jump as an example, because it's not technically high jump, is something in the middle, an event would not update the records because it's not technically a high jump event, if that makes sense. Not something you have to worry about too often, but just I thought I'd bring that up while we're here. So in this case, we're going to do a 100-meter sprint. We can then have a description if you like. So if you basically, if you do need to describe the event, or if something is needed to be mentioned alongside, like if it's going to be you need to be X high to run, for example. I'm not sure what you would put in for a description, but basically you can put a description on the event. Time measurement down here, we can basically pick the different timing this is going for. So we have times for seconds and minutes, seconds, milliseconds, depending on whatever you guys are running. You can change this option here. Score, as I said, is just the score on the day. So basketball, for example, volleyball, those type of events would have a scoring measurement system. Each event will have like a defaulting start point. So 100 meters is usually going to be held in seconds and milliseconds. But if you did need to change that, so you can adjust it here. As I had a school, I think last week or so, they were having like prep students running. Obviously, they don't do the 100-meter sprint in seconds, so they had to add minutes into there. So basically, this is how you would change that if you needed to. We then have gender, the age, participant type. Basically, this is either it's going to be individually participating or it's going to be the team participating. If you go team, it drops off a couple of these options because it's not relevant to teams. But basically, you change that here. Scoring method, once again, your position and standards. Usually, this matches whatever your scoring scheme that you're using is. So once again, position is usually the best one. And then scoring scheme is the other one you'll usually change. So you basically pick whichever one is relevant here. So depending on if you have athletics specific scoring system, you might have a relay specific scoring system. So you have maybe 2 or 3 that you're using throughout the entire article, the entire meet. Basically, you pick the relevant scoring scheme for this particular event that you're creating. So we're going to select the test scoring, because that's one we picked beforehand. And then champion students allocation. Basically, you can pick between add scores to team and individuals, add scores to teams only. The difference here is that if you add scores to team only, whenever a student earns points, they are only scored against the house points. They don't go towards their own unique single scores for the student. So they don't really go towards your age champions points. But the default setting is going to be team and individuals, because that way you are then able to have age champions and you actually get individual scores for your students. But yeah, you may need to change that up depending on the event that you're running. You then have heats. Basically, you can pick between heats, yes or no. So if you need heats, you apply it. That then gives you the settings for your heats at the very bottom. So you tell it how many heats you're running, number per heat, so how many people are in it.
If we do the heats, does that mean, is that like a division per year group?
Yeah.
No, so this is basically like the single race will have a number of heats in it. So you'll run multiple races.
So those same people would be running those same heats. So I've got to then create one for every single division every year.
So basically the heats would be for like the 100-meter sprint. So it's probably best if we put this in as an example here. So we're going to run 2 heats. It's going to be 2 students per heat. We're not going to limit it. The best student from each heat is going to run through to the final. And then how you determine the best is going to be best overall, which is basically the best scores over all of the heats put together. And we're not going to score the heats. So now if we save this one here, we then have a 100-meter final event here. So we can see over here, final, and we have 2 of the heats. Yes, so it's all one event, basically.
The teachers were doing the recording, then they could put it through this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, we'll add our participants to the heats through here. So we add participants using this little person icon, and then when those heats have been run, we put the scores in. The best student from all of those heats is going to then proceed to the final. Usually, you'll proceed more than one, and then you run a final race at the end, and then that gives you your overall champion for that event, kind of thing.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, most people don't run heats. In my experience, the ones that I've set up, most people just run them as individual events, and then they just give your points based on your placement in there. But there are a couple that will run heats, and that's usually if they need to like whittle down, I guess, the overall students to a single scored race at the end.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's basically, I said, that's all the information for adding in events. They are very custom. It really depends on like what event you're running as what settings you'll change and the settings specific for your carnival that you're running there. Was there any questions outside of the heats one that we just ran through that you have about those?
Yeah. Is there an easier way to add them, or do I have to do them individually?
So
there's not like a bulk way that you can do it?
That's the import option, but as I said, I'm pretty sure our team is the only one that has access to that, and that's because it is incredibly particular. You need to be very specific with your formatting, or else it just doesn't work. So you can utilize that valet service. If you go onto the support section, as I said, we'll go to the homepage real quick. There's a section up the top here for support. It is somewhere here when it loads. Here we go, support. So this is like our knowledge base, our tutorial system. So you can come in here and search for a bunch of stuff, but there will be one for import events. Which one is it? It's a student import template, meet import template, this one. So this basically give you a little breakdown, and then there is a downloadable option here. And this will give you an Excel spreadsheet. You basically fill this in with the required information, provide that through to our team, then we'll import it across for you. You'll then have to go through and just basically just double check, make sure all the information is still correct. But that is probably one way to do it. You're still technically entering the information individually. So sometimes it's easy just to enter it straight into the Meet system. But yeah, if you are finding it a little bit difficult to navigate, or maybe like your internet connection isn't the greatest, you can do that Excel spreadsheet, provide it to us, and we're more than happy to help you guys out. There might just be a day or two in terms of a turnaround time for that import. So depending on how much time you have will depend if that's a viable option for you.
No.
Awesome. Any other questions about the event creation?
Just have a look at it. Use it.
No, I think
Did we add students to the event?
I added the cross for the
Three different
preferences. Yeah.
But in this, the mock one,
No,
was there an option?
Yeah, you go to that little person icon, and then you can.
Yeah. So
can you? Yeah. Can you show?
yeah, as I said, the next thing we're going to run through is how you add students here. So actually, this is for open, so this will go back. Let's we'll add a new event just because it's easier. Go 200-meter sprint, test scoring, which you said you've added 3 to 6 students, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, let's do year 3 at 200-meter sprint. Let's just go, okay. I don't want heats. I want singles. So that's one thing that it will remember the most recent settings that you've put in. So because we did an event before it had heats, it remembers that we want to do heats. So it's going to try and like fill that in for you as you go through. So I actually want that to be known. That's one thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So if we go to participants now, so basically you get your list of eligible students on the left-hand side. The little color next to them basically tells you what house they're in.
Yeah.
So you basically go through and you can pick whichever students you like, or you can assign everybody and then assign them across that way, depending on what you need to do. So we'll just go these 3 people. There's 4 actually. Let's do this 4. Assign checked. They're going to move across to this side over here. This is all the students that are currently assigned to this event. Once you've got all of them entered, we can then go enter result, which will then bring up the input option over here. And this is basically where you just put in the stats for you. So we can put in, we ran this in 57 and 8, and then let's just go. And you were incredibly quick. You were 26. Go update all that. We click save. They'll then update our information over here.
Yeah. All the points get allocated.
And we basically refresh our place to make sure it's all good.
It's not or a stopwatch or something. They're not individually putting in times, or
It depends if we want to use the stopwatch
or not.
thing,
Yeah.
but then you have to start it at the exact time that they start running. So I don't know whether we want to do that.
But we
or
can
not.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, most people will kind of like do it like not so much offline, but they'll like basically take notes and then like hand it to a person that then goes through and enters the results there, just to make sure there's no little overlap or so like any like finicky like issues with like the starting of times and getting everything exactly coordinated can be a little bit of a challenge, especially on the bigger days when you have so many people running around. So it depends on what works for you at the end of the day, obviously, but that's what I've seen most people do. They'll kind of like just use the Marshall sheets and stuff to jot numbers down and then supply them all to be input later.
Can 2 people work on this simultaneously?
Yeah, so you can have as many people like in the system making changes. There's no real option where like you go in and you'll be overrunning each other. The only instance of that one is if you're both accessing the exact same event at the exact same time, then you might end up with a bit of like weird stuff going on. But generally you can have people entering the 200 events, then have people entering the 100 meters sprint, people doing the high jump. Like you can have as many people in there doing stuff as you need. But as you might have a bit of an issue if they're doing the exact same event at the exact same time. That's when you might have a bit of overlap.
Correct. So you recommend doing different events if there are more than one person doing it?
Yeah, generally. So, yeah, or at least just having some sort of communication going on, saying, hey, look, I'm doing 200 employees at the moment. And then the other person's like, cool, I'm going to go do this one kind of thing. So yeah, that should be all fine. As long as you've got some sort of communication, it won't really it won't really break anything if you're doing multiple people in there at the same time. It might just be that like if you put in your events and for whatever reason someone else is putting in different sets of data, whoever saves last, that's the data that's going to be moved across and like committed to that event. Obviously you should be putting in the same data, but yeah, if something weird's going on like that, that's the only thing that might occur. So
it should be fine because like if for instance you could be putting in division 1 and then you could be putting in division 2, I could be putting in division 3 and then you go to 4.
Or
Yeah.
we start the next
Yeah.
ones, because they run quite quick.
They do run quick.
Yeah.
yeah, and also I think because we've only like recently taken over the sports tracker system overall, we've already made like significant improvements to the speed of the portal. It's gotten much faster to work with, so you can quickly like churn through a lot of events very quickly.
Does it work equally well on iPads or is it just?
Yeah, so it does look like work on mobile devices. I have had a couple of calls come up where if we jump in, because if you zoom in a little bit, you'll see we actually have results in here as we saw before, but they don't show the numbers. This can be something that pops up on tablet devices because the screen's a lot smaller. Also on some laptops, if the zoom level's in too far, or if it's just zoomed in naturally, you may end up not having information showing. It's still there, it's still being applied, it just doesn't show it visually on the page. So if that ever does happen, you can just scroll out or zoom out, and they'll then bring that back into focus for you. But I've had some people call and say, I can't see any of my scores. It's like, no, it's fine, they're there, you're okay. Yeah, they're just zoomed in a bit, that's all.
Okay.
Cool. I think we did used to have a mobile app, but there was a bit of a problem, like problems with it. It just didn't really work too well. And the online portal is effectively the map experience anyway, so that we basically just discontinued it. So yeah, there's no mobile specific app, but you can still access it from your mobile device. It's perfectly fine.
Can you put in data, or can you access it? You said that you can access it offline, or do you have to be connected to the internet?
It does need to be connected to the internet because it is an online portal. Basically, if you try and swap any of the screens and you're not connected to Wi-Fi or anything, or a network, it will just kind of 404 and disconnect. But you can you can export out. Can't remember where it is.
Office. Yeah. Get the little portable Wi-Fi.
Okay. And will that do 2 or 3 laptops? Or
Oh, here we go.
It's just like extends the
range.
Oh, actually, I'm not sure.
You might just plug in.
Yeah, it is.
So it's only for one.
Yeah.
So basically what I was talking about before with the offline option is if you go to the export section over here, you have access to like your event schedule and your Marshall sheets, which is basically your event entry option. So this is like the offline thing I was talking about. You can print off your Marshall sheets for your events and people can record that data and then take it to whichever device is connected to that network and then put them in there.
That's streaming data. We don't have to be outside.
Yeah.
If someone brings us a sheet, or we're running backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
Sheets with that.
Well, I could use the Wi-Fi from the start line of the cross country with my
just worried the 3 of us
laptop.
might run into troubles.
But also where the scoring tent's usually set up is pretty close to the office.
Yeah.
So
we'll just make it closer.
yeah.
Also, in a pinch, you can also use like mobile phones that usually have a hotspot as well. So if you need to like quickly access something, you can usually like just turn on someone's Wi-Fi on your mobile phone and then connect it up that way as well. That's something a lot of people will do as well.
So that export of the event schedule.
Yep.
Can you generate one of them just so I can have a look at it?
Yeah, sure. So basically when you click on generate, it will do its thing for a bit. And we can download that one. So basically, this is just the schedule is basically telling you like what is going on for the day and at what time. So that one's more so just like a, hey, this is what the day is going to look like kind of thing.
Cool.
Is there a way that you can do something like that, but also have a list of students involved?
So I believe that one is the all events, I believe. So participants by team, I think, is the one that we want. But basically, yeah, you can export like a whole metadata in here, so various different things. So I believe the participants by team will tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we go. Okay, 200 meters with 2 students in there.
But they're all
So, yeah,
individual pages.
These will be basically based off the different team that you have, kind of thing. So this is grouped by the team. There is a way. One of these ones is
So it could be like 200, 100, and they could just give Murray theirs to one there.
Is what you want.
It's mainly just so for like the people in the bays, they can get the kids ready. So that'll be that one. Then
We want.
the participants by team.
I believe so. I'm trying to remember. I said there is a way that you can see what they are. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but I know one of these ones does give you like the event and then the students, and then it gives you like their.
That's right.
There's a section where you can put their sheet. It might just be the Marshall sheets actually. Now that I'm thinking about it.
That's it. Marshall sheets. That would be it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if I'm
Because
stop overthinking
Yeah,
it.
that makes sense.
Yeah, if I stop overthinking, I think it's literally just the Marshall sheets. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, 200 meters with these students. So it tells you what they're in, also tells you what lane they're in. Kind of goes from there. Yep.
And there's one
I think.
for each page. What is that, Murray?
Well,
Yeah, basically we'll have like one.
All
Yeah,
the
'cause-
students. Okay.
There's all
I'll
the
see
students
which
on
way
the
that's
200
going.
meters. Because we only have one event currently with students in it, we only have one page listed here. So yeah, as we add more events and we add more students, this will get more and more populated.
Yeah, cool.
Because that's the plan. We have paper-based scoring, and then we
And regional
Yeah, just across
Yeah,
the bases.
That's what a lot of people will do. So they'll go through with the marshal sheets, input it all manually, and then give it to like a single person or two people. Say, hey, here's all these events, and they go through. They input it all into Sports Tracker.
Yeah.
But you can have them all set up as administrators in your account, which is done on the previous page there, and then those teachers can log in on the event they're managing, and then they can put the information straight in as well. It just depends if you want to have multiple people authorized to access and run around the account. Yeah.
It's best that way.
Then you're on your
Awesome.
own account.
Yeah.
Yeah, for security reasons, it's usually best to not have like a single point of login. It's usually best to have multiple people like with their own unique logins to go through. But yeah, it depends on what works for you guys at the end of the day. But so that's pretty much all of it actually. Like there's not a whole lot more to do with schools as a Sports Tracker. Sorry, it's pretty easy to pick up and run with. It's just kind of like knowing where everything is usually the hard part. Is there any particular things that you guys want us to expand out upon or run through?
Will the cross country and the athletics points be put together
For
for the champions?
By themselves, I don't believe so because they are basically two separate two separate meets, and they also two separate like categories as well. I think even if you did like a separate athletics carnival, it still wouldn't count the points cumulatively, basically.
We'll have to add them individually.
So I don't think so, at least.
Yeah.
So basically, you'd add them individually. So on each meet, basically, you'd have the results, which are done under results export down here.
Use this for before.
And then basically you just add them all together as you go through.
Enter the school.
Yeah.
So the athletics carnival, like everything is, we can put jumps and throws on different days.
Yeah.
And then it's under that one.
It was multiple day. There was an option.
Yes,
day
that's one meet. Yeah.
So
and then all the points go.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll do
Yeah.
day one.
Jumps and throws.
Yeah.
And day
And
two,
day two,
the rest of the events.
So next year you'll do day one as cross country. That's just one big event.
Yeah, because our champion points, they come from the cross country as well.
Okay.
So
We're just
So-
sorting ourselves out. Yeah.
If we set up
you're perfectly
athletics
fine.
carnival over multiple days and day one could be our cross country for next year, would that
So the
work?
issue that you run into is because cross country has like its own separate set of events, and same with swimming and athletics. So, for example, if we go to athletics right now, we don't have like 50-meter backstroke, for example, because this is the whole event's classified as a English as an athletics carnival. So you won't have any of the swimming events in there. So you can't really do like a breakdown of the same meet with different types of events. So we can't do day one is cross country, day two is athletics, day three is swimming, for example, because this one meet is all these type of events. Now we could technically do it using the custom option. Like you could create a custom event for those specific cross country days, and then that way you could run it all in one particular event. But that wouldn't talk to the high score records that we talked about at the very beginning, because it's a custom event now, not a cross-country event. So you'll lose out a little bit of functionality. But yeah, there is ways to do it. Not an easy way to do it, I guess, is probably one way of saying it.
It's easy just to add two scores.
yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah. So you get a full
No,
breakdown of each carnival. So you can go like one number plus 2 plus 3 equals your total. So yeah, easy enough to do a group total at the very end. And if you're splitting them into the different meets, it's also easy for you to manage. Hey, this is all of our cross country stuff. This is all of our athletics stuff, and so on and so forth.
yeah. So there's no. They've got javelin and they've got vortex, but we do like a t-ball throw. So maybe we'll just classify it as vortex.
But yeah.
So we
Yes.
can keep the results rather than creating a custom one.
Yes. So that just depends
Yeah,
if you run both
there's
T-ball
multiple.
and Vortex. Because if you're running both Vortex and T-ball and they're
We
both
don't
run
do
as
Vortex.
Vortex. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
we
So
don't.
yeah, you can definitely do it that way then. It just depends if you do. Yeah, obviously if you are running that actual event, it won't be as beneficial for you.
Maybe we'll start via some vortexes.
Yeah, be better than t-ball things.
Yeah.
Hitting people, baseball things.
Awesome.
Okay. Can parents access this?
Or do we want them to?
That's the question. Yeah.
I don't believe so. No. So we have the parent portal. Not the parent. We have the admin
Student
portal where you guys
portal.
basically log in, and you have the student portal where the students can
Yeah.
log in. They can assign themselves to their own events,
Mhm.
and they can also see their own point values that are assigned to them. It's not really. I have like one person that I've helped with the student registration. I don't think it's used as widely as people might think it is.
we don't use
Um,
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would probably be the only way parents could access it. They'd use their student login details to then log in and see their students' like results and information. They don't really see anything else really. It's just like whatever's relevant to that student.
And once we set up all the events,
Yep.
it prints an itinerary of all of our events, so we could give that to the parents of this is roughly what time things are running, or
So that's basically what your export
Yeah.
over here would be. So like that event schedule that we talked about before, that
That
would give you a
schedule, okay.
breakdown of all the
Yeah.
events, what time they're at, and all that kind of stuff. So that's something you could pass out. And then, yeah, so you could do participants by team. But there's options in here that you can get out, and depending on what you want to provide to the parents, you may have an option here to suit that need, basically.
Now, with the cross country, I used the inbuilt stopwatch.
Yep.
Is that something that's commonly used for 100 meters and things like that?
Commonly used, I don't believe so. Most people, as I said, would kind of just use the inbuilt options in here because it is like a third-party thing. Like you need that one and this one and that one kind of thing. So most people will just kind of do their own recording in whatever way they're comfortable with, and then they'll just import it manually into Sports Tracker. There are a good portion of people that do still use that stopwatch functionality for sure. But I think like the most commonly that I run into when I'm like helping clients out is like they have done their own time recording
Yeah.
somehow, and then they're just putting it into the system.
All right, cool.
Awesome.
So,
do you have to put a time in?
do we have to add a time?
You
Or
can have like a
when
did not
in
finish.
the- What about when you were creating the event and you did time in seconds? Above that, it
Yes.
said position.
Yes.
So
it's
can we
first,
just do
second, third.
position
Yeah.
and
100%. Yeah.
yeah?
But
So
then we
position,
don't
yeah.
get
Then we won't
record.
get the record.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll speak to you about it
Yeah.
after. But
Yeah.
the PNC want to buy light gates,
Oh,
so yeah.
But yeah, the position would basically suit like fix that basically. It's, yeah, just going to put them in who came first, who came second, who came third. How you did it is irrelevant. That's basically what position will do. I guess the only thing that will impact, I suppose, is I think that the scoring method, if you were doing standards, I don't think you can do position based because you do need to have you scored this many times. But as I said, most people use a position based scoring method anyway, so yeah, this should be all good.
I don't think we'd use the other one anyway.
mhm.
Yeah, so I think maybe two
This year.
people in my like 6 months I've been in this section so far have actually used standards. Not many people actually do. Not people would actually do standards. It's not. They say it's very common in primary schools. I don't believe it. I think it's very complicated and not worth. But yeah, that's just what I've run into and experienced. Oh, cool. Any other
So-
questions? Anything else?
The steps that I need to do to create the event. So I've got to obviously
Yes.
create the event, but I've got to add the rest of our students
Yeah.
in.
Yep.
Then I have to create the individual events within the meet.
Yep.
And then that's pretty much it until we start. Is that correct?
Pretty much, yeah. So the general
And the
flow chart, if we work on the assumption that we have a brand new account, we haven't done anything just yet, the general flow chart is you'll import, you'll go into the account, you'll create the organization, which you've already done. We'll create our teams, which once again, we've already done, so that's all fine. Then we'll import our students, so we add all those in there. We will then create a scoring scheme. Now you have one for the cross country already, but you could create an athletics one specifically if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Once you've got the scoring scheme done up, then you would then create the meet, add the events, and then link all your students to it. So yeah, the only thing we're missing in the middle there was the scoring scheme. Basically, I'll probably recommend creating one for the athletics because you already have one for the cross country, as I said. But yeah, we want to make sure we have one for athletics. And if you are going to be doing swimming carnivals as well, probably also create one based on that.
I need a scoring
Cool.
scheme.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
one. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, cool.
But other than
Alright.
that, I guess you got pretty much the rest of it down pat, so you should be all good with that.
Yeah.
And if you get
And
stuck, if
then
you have any
maybe
questions, like you can always reach out to us. You have access to unlimited support over here with Sports Tracker. So if you need help at any point, give us a call, send us a live chat, send us an email. Any way you feel comfortable communicating, just get in touch with us. We're more than happy to help you guys out.
Awesome. Okay. Seems
Awesome.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, any
It'll
other
just be
like
a
last
bit
minute
of a reason.
questions?
It's going to be.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think we're all
That's
good
it for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. Well, like I said, I'll stop the recording there and we should be all good to go.
It's good that we can look back at it.
It is actually.